the overall concept of this is, here's a little page of notes that I made for myself. Fuck off. Mechanical movement, ideas and thoughts written into words. My handwriting's not good, my talking isn't great, and honestly, you could probably hit me with a brick right now, and that'd be the absolute end of me. So this is what we're going to try to go over. Don't worry about what any of this says, because I'm going to try and go over it like a person and not like a robot, which, irony of ironies. Core is going to stay in Chad mode. That's just normal. I got finished capturing a few other things. Well, one thing specifically that's been sitting on my desk for, about a month, and I have some other stuff after that and before that that's been sitting around. Not sitting around, but the footage has been captured, I should say. Anyway, now, could I just film this on one screen at a time, or can I make this the most convoluted thing that I possibly could right off the hop? Now that I have skipped through the unintelligible, uninteresting ranting that I have been going through, let me do this. So here is our setup. Our guy, I do not care about his feet. So his feet are going to stay in place. Let's get our little guy in a position where we can show our work and not worry too much about all of the other little things. We'll get into more examples, but first example is going to be just an arm motion as a way to get some principles going. All right. In full disclosure, I have a sponsor. No one pays me for this. I have one of these, which is the absolute bee's knees. It connects via Bluetooth, and it works through stop motion. And frankly, it is insane how much nicer it is to use this than headphones. The problem is it is not an inexpensive object, and headphones work just as fine for a way to take images. So for what it's worth, I love it. I didn't realize that it worked, and I had it for as long as I've been doing this, more or less, and I haven't been using it until New Gundam. So now, you can see in the bottom right, the extreme bottom right, because the framing is fine. If I take a picture, I can just do that, and everything is hunky-dory, and it works out real nice. But I always capture 3 frames at the beginning of something, and then when I repose something, I tend to capture 3 more frames. But the goal for this is give him an arm swing as an example, and another arm string in another version as another example. So this is going to be easing in and easing out, both in the same vein, capturing at 12 frames per second. And yeah, let's just do it. So I'm going to capture 3 more frames as a start, and the ease into an action, I'm using this as a way to manipulate it. Is that smart? No? Okay, I won't do that then. So frame 1, simple, real slight motion. You can see how much motion you have there. To me, that's a little bit much for frame 1, easing in and capture. Frame 2, a little bit more. It's still too extreme on the hand. I don't want that. You can see how having blue tack makes your life a little bit easier, because he stays more or less rock solid. And if I put my hand in front of him, oh, what's focusing? Nothing should be focusing. Never mind. Are you still on manual? No. Now you are. Okay. Nothing should be focusing. I just want the focus to stay the same. If you do this, this gives you a preview of how much you move your thing. So, frame 2, or frame 3, I've already forgotten which. And frame 3 we can be more extreme, and I'm focusing more or less on the distance between the tip of the sword and the movement of the arm. And it's already a little too smooth in, but now I'm going to make bigger motions. So this arm is starting to move faster. This is starting to move faster. So we're picking up or have picked up speed to where we want it to go. And as we do these things, at some point, the weight of the arm is going to have to stop. This motion can't keep going because of the limitations of the rig and because of the limitations of everything else, but we want a specific effect. So we've captured a few frames of it moving forward. Now, from here, I would like to start slowing it down again. And very similar to the last time, everything is now moving in smaller increments. And this is not the mechanical sort of robotic, not robotic, but like, this isn't the portion where I'm trying to add a ton of weight. This is the portion of like getting a baseline. If this was a human with a sword, that's kind of the goal. If I sound out of breath, it's because I am dying. Not literally dying, fine. We all know everybody that says that they're fine are truly, well and truly fine. So I continue to slow down, and I will slow it down just a little bit more, and this will be our last frame for the moment. And so if I hit to preview, not great, not bad, but doing the job. Doing the job we set out to do. We can also go back and delete these first 3 keys, or frames, excuse me. Take these out. They are not wanted, and then we can just hit play. So that is easing in and easing out. That's the very first example. It's a really common pattern in animation, and especially on the 2s or 12 frames a second, it's exactly what it looks like. No attempt to add any other flair. This is just basic motion. So let's cut that shit out. Oh, there's the swearing. Let's have him reset, and we'll do it in a fun way. I say fun, but is this fun? Are you enjoying it? Like, comment, and subscribe if you're having fun. So, sorry, I am in a mood. So, it's not, wrong one. As this one's going up, I want to see. Now, I could put more second, like, you know what, let's do this fun. So, just as a way to add more flair to animation in general, keep in mind, adding motion in places is the spice of life. And let's try to keep the same frames that will add secondary animation on the tip of the sword, where the arm goes up but the tip goes down. So the hand will drag in comparison to the arm, and this is a great way to add some, like, this is actually a way to add weight into things. So as the arm is coming back up, I'm keeping the arm more or less straight, and I am, oh cool, I have a meal time. I'm keeping the arm more or less straight, but when the hand no longer has room to bend down, I'm just going to move the whole arm as a unit, and then the arm or the hand will follow after. You will see. So I'm going to pick up speed on the arm, and the hand is more or less at its maximum rotation. So as the arm comes up, now I can have the elbow unbend because there's more stress as it's coming up. I say it'll make sense, but I am not supposed to lie much. Okay. So this is almost at the end of its curve, and as it's slowing down, this is now speeding up because there's still weight and force there, and I can even get the shoulder involved a little bit. I'm trying to get the shoulder to tilt down some so that this has more freedom of motion, and the hand is going to rotate last so that there's even more motion to go on top of that. So shoulder's going down, arm is coming up, elbow is bending, and to add weight back into this, we are screaming ahead to the least simple version of any of this, which is he's going to cut himself in half with the laser sword. Big dummy. He's in Chad mode for a reason. And so I don't actually know if that worked, but I'm going to hit play and find out. And you get to see it in real time as well. So I'm doing something where I'm countering some of the motion ever so slightly. So I've come down and come back up. That's going to come back into play again, but oh, that's definitely too much. There's not an easy way to delete frames, so this is literally what I do. Okay. Move you down. Very good. We'll just call that there because that's fine. So arm goes down, arm comes up. So you can see like the hand dragging behind. All right, that did work. The hand dragging behind very specifically gives us, so ease into an action, and then at the bottom of it, since I'm easing back, I'm easing out of the down action and easing into the up action. This, as it comes back up, the curve on the shoulder. I have something I can threaten him with. The curve on the shoulder here, as it's coming back up, this motion is more or less the same, but the motion on the elbow and the hand is a secondary motion for adding weight. So effectively, you could have done this on the way down as well and used every joint to your advantage. But I don't want to go too crazy yet because there's plenty of time for that. I just want to, I'm going to do this again on the way down and show a more linear curve and how that can be more mechanical, but it's still going to be missing something. Like it's not going to get the full effect of what you want, but you can get away with a lot more linear motion in robots because, I mean, that's just kind of how they work. They usually get up to the speed they're supposed to be pretty quickly, and they have no concept of pain, so they can go fast to slow in a shorter period of time. They only have a concept of how much power they can generate, and I'm rambling. All right. So this is going to be the linear curve, and I am going to more or less do the same thing, but linear is exactly what you think it is. So I'm going to capture one more frame here, and we're going to move the exact same distance, or our best approximation of it, all the way down. Oh, it would probably help if I did this. There we go. So that sword tip, I want that to be more or less the same distance the entire way. And I would like to note that I'm not doing anything to try and make it the same number of frames because I am a ding-dong. But that doesn't mean... I'm trying to do as many frames as it takes to make the motion good. I don't have any other constraints. And in a in a way, I'm already messing it up as a control versus um, a proper comparison. But I think that we can still go. I moved him. I moved all of him. I do this thing where I'll use one joint as a way to manipulate the whole body, and I do it kind of subconsciously now. So there might be a little bit more jankiness in this than I might have wanted. So I'm trying to keep everything similar, and instead of slowing it down to stop, I'm just going to stop. Plain and simple. All of the pieces can move linearly too. That's, I mean, that's good and normal and fine. Like if all the curves are linear and it gets to where it's going, but you have a different curve on the bicep or the forearm or the hand, you can get things to linearly feel both robotic and organic at the same time, which to me would be very, very Gundam. So that's roughly the distance that the tip moves in most of these. And I'm just going to hit play and preview these last couple frames. Terrible. Absolutely awful. There's something that going easing into and out of an action adds to things that really does lend itself to things looking better. Anyway, that being said, we're going to put the arm back up and we're going to do it the exact same way. We're not even going to give it any cushion time. We're just going to try and be the more precise you can be when you're being linear, the better. Honestly, it's hard. It's much harder in stop motion too. And this is about the speed that I animate anyway. If I slowed down or if I had a better way to preview things, like if this was on a monitor and I could see exactly how much motion is happening between everything, my life would be different. Animation would be even slower and even better. Everything that I have found that makes things easier to animate or more fun or cool for me, they tend to slow the process down but make the process more enjoyable, and that's cool and fine. I have no idea how this is going to sound. This could be awful. So, another thing too that I'm not doing that we're about to do is adding. No, don't cut off your head. I'll make a concession. All right. So, another thing that we're about to get into is settling things, adding anticipation frames that go into linear frames much nicer. So I'm going to capture 3 frames between this, hit play. That does look much more robotic. All right. I've done worse. I've done worse today. So that's what's going on here. Now we're going to add a slight a slight anticipation and a slight settle at the end that will, it works for easing in, easing out, linear. You can use it to preempt very fast motions. You can use it to preempt very robotic motions. You can do it to make something look heavy. We haven't even talked about stepping yet. So let's do this first. The idea is to use the best of both worlds. Ease into the action by, I'm going to capture another frame. Ease into the action by going against the direction that you want to go by just a little bit. It really doesn't have to be much. Just one frame is enough. If I sounded even more unhinged, it is because I really like this stuff. It's fun for me. So easing in one frame the opposite way, and this could apply to the entire chain. You could ease in from the bicep, have that secondary motion go on to the forearm and to the hand, and in 3 frames you could have this start moving, this hanging back, and then sort of like break things in a chain. I might try to do that, but we'll see. So, oh man, I'm already too excited. So, I'm doing 2 frames, even though I just got very passionate about a singular frame. Uh, so that's so now we are easing in just a little bit, maybe 1 or 2 frames, because the action's already started. And if the timing is tight, then you're going to alter these frames as you need them. I don't work with sound or anything like that beforehand, so it usually doesn't mess me up at all. And now this isn't going to move too fast, and this is going to pick up some real speed. And speed and weight do not have to be mutually exclusive. Gravity wants things to come down at the same rate at all times in a way that is so truly consistent that when something is off with it, you tend to feel it or notice it. So this is going to be a very whippy action now that I've started doing it, which might be the opposite of robotic. But we are going to stop the action very abruptly and give it a reason to have some weight. If this was 24 frames a second, you can start to get away with some real crazy stuff. 24 frames a second is, like, by the math alone, twice as much work, and I do not have time for that. I'm going to hit play now to see how we're doing. It could be faster. I would like this to be a quicker motion. That frame is dead to me. We're going to keep it going. So I would like the hand to be, as the arm is coming to a stop, I would like the hand to, so if this is the arm's final destination, and we've just come from a very big motion, I would like 2 things to happen. One is to kind of fool the eye and have this slowing down but coming beyond where I want the final pose to be, and then coming back up like a servo catching in a motor to counteract its programmed distance. So just to be just to say that and pretend that those words mean anything. So this little settle here can go up ever so slightly. It doesn't look like I did anything because I didn't. I don't think I actually did anything. It's very hard to touch something and have it not move in stop motion. So did I do it? Really? There we go. Now it's definitely moved. And I'm going to make sure that my timing of things doesn't get messed up. This is way harder to do when you have 2 screens that you're clicking between. All right, so that little settle down there, it may not be mechanical, but it does add weight. You can also see the shoulder. The frames, the curves in the shoulder, I wasn't paying any attention to, or the motion. So it does kind of pop back up. That's not intended. I would say it's not controlled, but that's kind of a property of stop motion in general. Anyway, that's not bad, but on the way back up, I will go a little bit more extreme. And just try for a second example. So same thing, different attempt. So slightly in the opposite direction. That's your first frame, and I'm going to break every joint. Breaking a joint in animation is a technical term where this joint moves, but this joint quote unquote breaks because it's going against the path of the action. So secondary animation, primary animation, bicep, secondary animation to the bicep is the forearm, secondary to the forearm is the hand, Secondary to the hand is the sword, but the sword and the hand are connected, and that's fine. I don't know if any of these terms are correct anymore. I'm an old. So, as this comes up, I would like it to move relatively quickly, and I would like to make a big motion here, and then just get the bend going already. Weight and speed are not mutually exclusive, but it is how you settle what happens before and after the action that tend to make it look the way that you want it to look. So there, I'm using that joint as like kind of like an inverse kinematics IK. Push this down to have the shoulder and this connect. I like it, and I think it's cool and fun. Anyway, I work a lot in 3D, so I'm going to use that same thing to chunk the shoulder down a little bit and then bring it up some. And I will use this to make it a little less extreme and have that be that. So, depending on depending on everything else that's going on around it, if he's moving, if there's other actions that are moving other actions around, there's a lot of real fun stuff in there. So, our examples from earlier, smoother, more linear, and then more mechanical, and you can see that there's a distinct feel between them. There's a much more specific time for linear action and for adding sort of your personal take and style to things. The way that you move just a single piece can affect how your brain thinks that something moves. Another big one is sound. Sound is so much of what you see. If this was all wet, squishy sounds, this would be awful to look at. It would be awful to listen to. No one's having a good time. I'm already having a bad time with my voice today. So, all that being said, this is the arm example, but there are other things that you do that are very similar for, body motion and stuff like that. There's so much to it. I'm going to move him closer. I'm going to change our framing. Done. That's fine. So, applying those curves to different things, there's a couple of tricks that we're going to do, mostly because this is already going to be a long video. I would like to do something that I think would at least be there. I would at least like to have another useful just trick in general. I call it a trick, but it's really just like how you want to pose between things and ways to animate that get you a lot of bang for your buck, which but for one thing, his feet being planted are having one planted so that you can manipulate the body gives you a lot of very fine control. And in general, let's go ahead and get our first 3 frames. Make sure we have some transparency. One thing that is pretty important for whatever you're doing. I'm going to have him turn around, turn back, and then wheel around on a foot and draw a sword. We'll just do something. We'll do something that truly takes more brain power than I absolutely have at the moment. So, if you want to add some of the things that we've talked about before, one, the fine motion, like you can already see, I've touched him a little bit, and I guarantee you that he has had some motion that I can't see on him. That's done, and it's happened. So to keep things simple, a head turn, you can turn it just the head, and we're going to do what we talked about in our last example. I'm going to try and keep the body still, or as still as I can, but I'm not going to sweat over any incidental motion. head slightly turned the opposite way, and I'm trying to just turn it on the x-axis. I don't know, it's different in different programs. I don't know what reality is. Y is up and down, X is this way, Z is that way. Maybe it's Z up, I don't know. So one frame to counter the motion, and then ease into the action. And when the head can't move anymore, the body has to compensate. But I would like the head to do as much of the action as possible without having to rotate it up to like make the chin clear any pieces. So this is what I'm going to do for now. All right, so I think that's about as far as I want him to go. I'm going to compensate a little with the body. And by compensate, I actually just mean like it takes some of the weight rotation and just that little bit of grab and twist. Yeah, it did what I wanted. And then counter it back. So it goes slightly more than the intended distance and then goes back to where it should be, and use that as a way to show weight, that the head of this is not a balloon. It's not a 9-pound skull filled with like a 3-pound pile of goop that's just you, the human being. It's filled with a Gundam, and that head is like the weight of a Buick Plus. So keep that in mind. If this stops, this and everything that it's connected to is going to try and compensate for it so that it doesn't break anything while it's stopping. Mechanical engineers, get in the comments. Gundams are nightmare creatures, and it's just you have to. The physics are fantasy physics in every single sense of the word. So I'm going to capture a couple of frames of him just keeping his eyes over his shoulder, and I'm going to have him. I'm going to draw with his. Draw with his right arm. One thing when you're doing some of this is if you want a fast action, you can ease into the action and then have one in between frame. This is one of the tricks that I was thinking of. Was this pose started right about here. I moved it a little bit this way. I'm going to move it a little bit this way. And I'm going to start shifting the weight just a little bit so that I have some room to play with. And in the next, I'm going to make one in-between pose. I'm going to make one in-between pose that will lead directly into settling into him having his hand on his sword. So a slight more adjustment this way, and then a immediate in between that's halfway where I want him to be. This foot came up, and I don't want that just yet. So the body can continue to ease in one direction, but the hand is about to go absolutely apeshit. Or at least apeshit speed-wise, in a way that betrays a lot of things. But this is like anticipation and settle are the most powerful tools that you have to animate with, bar none. And how you use them and apply them, it's all very fluid and esoteric, and that's good. Because now I'm going to have his hand all the way on his sword. I might even cheat this up, and I might have to reposition him a little bit anyway, but did I do it? I didn't do it. The amount of swearing I normally do is significantly higher. I'm keeping it somewhat civil for the moment. So now I've fully moved him out of his position, and that's not great. But I'm going to use it as a way to settle him into a different pose. This may or may not work. It, like, and by work I just mean it may be kind of like ugly. But making an extreme motion, I saw how much motion I had done, so I'm going to move him a little bit more, compensate by bringing this arm up and having it ease out of its action, and then have him settle into this pose. When I said that this was beyond my mental faculties at the moment, I was not lying. And I regret it immediately. So now I'm having him settle back a little bit. We'll hit play and see how much damage we've done. I'm actually going back and forth a couple times. I've done worse. I've published worse. I did stop paying attention to this arm, and it should have had a lot more motion in the same way that this was going. This arm has been neglected, and it's a really good example of what happens when you don't actually do the thing. But stop motion, there is no going backwards. I've tried doing in-betweens. I gave it a real college try. Somebody left a comment once, and they were very adamant that you can in-between, and the fact is you can, but if you're in-betweening with stop motion, you lose the position of things in a way that you can never truly get back to, and the more intricately detailed and animated everything is, the more problems come in trying to make a smooth animation doing that. It would work for a singular joint or a ball, but I have not found that it works for a whole body as a way to practice stop motion. But that's okay. It was worth an experiment, and it was worth the time and effort to try. I might actually be losing my voice. This is awesome. All right, so he's grabbed his sword, and I have 5% battery left. I think that means I have 5 minutes. So, in 5 minutes, I'm going to have him slightly counter in one way. I'm only trying to move the center of mass and not move anything else. And I'm going to have him lean forward and bend a leg to compensate for where he's about to go. And this leg, I want to take the brunt of the weight and have the other leg move freely. So while in the next frame, he's going to actually draw the sword. This is going to be very similar to how we did before, where it's going to ease out and then it's going to go fast and then settle into an action. And now that it's drawn, we might as well do some movie magic and give him his little saber back. No, don't fall. Falling is the most common reason for me to swear copiously. So, as he's doing that, this arm's going to come out as a way to compensate, and then I'm going to make a very extreme pose that he's going to slash into. And when the weight shifts, that's a great reason to make one shift at a time, one frame at a time, as a way to make things more legible, I would say. So I've kind of lost the plot on the sword, and as I want the sword to be very followable until it is moving extremely quickly. Did I mess up? Yes, I did. I was going to have him turn all the way around, but the framing for this isn't great. I will try to just do it all the way. You can also have him spot like a ballerina and have his head staying in place and then following, but you don't have to do nothing. Need to reset the sword. Sometimes I will just hold the sword and move the body, and that way things tend to track pretty good. Alright. Now, I'm not hitting play between every frame because I am fully guessing. I know where he is in space, and that's as good as I can get. This next frame will be an attack of sorts, and his front foot is now locked. His body is going to turn all at once. Everything, everywhere. They made a movie. It made me cry. And I'm going to go for the most extreme action possible. You can hide some things too, but we'll see how good or bad this is. Oh, this isn't going to be good. It's fine. I'm rushing because my battery is dying. Both verbally and literally, the capturing device is about to absolutely shit the bed. And so I'm going to give it a little bit of settle, and I'll give it another swipe, because why the absolute hell not? I'm going to tilt this, and we'll swipe once at camera. Hopefully this is watchable and not a absolute shit show. I'm going to move the head. And shift the weight, drag the sword back, move the head further, try to make contact with your target, and then rotate everything at the hips, cross your fingers, that this works. By your fingers, I mean mine. I'm not touching your fingers, those are yours. I am rushing this in a way that I would not suggest. Come on. Okay, I can't leave him on the ground. When you see a cut at some point and this comes back to being a watchable thing, that'll be like so cool. All right. And a lot of this stuff I have internalized as far as like how I like to move things. But those explanations earlier are general concepts that I follow through for just about everything. The way that something reacts when it's heavy is usually that it has to compensate for being that heavy. I don't like that frame. And the way that you depict it in animation when you're not working with something that is, unreasonably, unmovably impossible to conceptualize, you do little things that fake it. And that's cool and normal. So, as my voice is dying, let's hit play and let's see what it did. It's not bad. It's not bad for genuinely panicking, but you can see that there are very large changes in motion that only really work because, not because it's like when he goes to a knee is a really good example of everything else tends to flow normally, and if I didn't slide him, it would be it wouldn't feel right. So that slide at the end, it may not be perfect, but conceptually it gets across what I want. So hopefully this is useful information, and hopefully I can edit this into something that is useful. But if there's any interest in an hour-long just madman rant, then I might consider putting that up somewhere. But that's it for now. Thanks for watching. Hopefully recording a screen while another madman talks into an object is fun and useful and good. Everybody have a good day.